There we go. Appreciate that, Patricia. And also, where Esther's been working with animals as well, she might be interested to know with your kennels and what's been going on, Randy. But we've seen pretty much across the spectrum with results, and it seems like the things that we see the most, we get the most stories of, right? That society is dealing with. And one of those is for sure back health. I think gut and back health and brain health might be like the top three.
Yeah.
And so, Randy, you had severe back issues. Do you kind of want to explain what's going on this slide, and we'll kind of evolve through it before we go
Yeah,
into the
sure.
science?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is a healthy looking spine. You can see the spinal cord is intact throughout the middle, and the discs are they have great spacing, and the tailbone goes down into there, and it's got all its spacing and all that kind of stuff. And so this looks great, and then there's mine, not too good right there. So you
Trainer.
can see my spinal cord is pinched. Uh, and Dave, I got to tell you, so we were talking to a nurse here a couple nights ago, and talking to her about this, the blue, the pill, right, the blue pill, the magic blue pill, and so I said, well, because they see me walk around normal, and so there's nothing there until you until you show them this picture. It's like, oh my word, and then they look at you like, are you walking? I mean, what in the world? I mean, you shouldn't even be able to walk like this, right? And then I talked to another nurse today and showed her the same thing. She said, "Oh my word!" It's an older gal. She's retired, and it's just so funny because I walk around normal, and here it is. I mean, look at this mess, and it's fused down the bottom. It fused those two vertebrae together on its own, pinched the spinal cord, as you can see, hurt. I mean, oh my word! Like everybody I tell, and especially in the medical field, I say, that did hurt, and they go, oh no, that looks like that hurt like horrendously bad, and so it renders you immobile. I mean, that's what it does. You're not going to do maybe 800 steps a day, and 600, or if you really like tried hard all day, you might get 1,000 or 1,100, but you aren't going to get very many steps. And so this is more like me just sitting immobile. I mean, I just couldn't move. And of course, when that happens, you gain a pound or two, a little fattage around the midsection or what have you. So that all happens. And the reality of it is that Malcolm, I just and he knows it. He knows I love him. Now I didn't always like him. Ain't gonna lie about that because he's bugging me. Randy, I think I got something for you. I didn't even know him from Adam, right? I didn't know this Malcolm guy calling me out of nowhere, and he was recommended to call me by another mutual friend, and you couldn't seriously. I mean, I'd already run the gamut, and so when I say run the gamut, I'm just not talking about the medical world. I'm talking about the full alternative medical world as well. So all the acupuncture, reflexology, everything, chiropractic, all the way down. For years, I've done all this kind of stuff, high nutrition and different things, and glucosamines and shark cartilages. And I mean, I've taken this and taken that and tried and tried and tried and tried, right? And I don't even share all this. There's just so much stuff I've tried. And finally, even the medical doctors took all their shots in my spine, and they just everybody just said, finally, and they knew I was trying. That's why they're kind of all involved. It's like, man, we've got to try and get Randy's back better. And it got to a point where it's like, well, every one of them, my alternative doctors, my regular doctors, said, Randy, I just think it's time. We've tried everything. And I said, well, now go see the surgeon. Well, during that time, of course, you got to get your MRI, right? You got to get CAT scan, then you got to get the scoliosis, all these pictures and X-rays for the scoliosis and all that stuff. And which I don't know if I got scoliosis or not, but they wanted full rundown. And in the meantime, here's old Malcolm calling me, and so I started taking. At first, I told him, I said, okay, I'll try it, but I'll give it to my dogs first, right? Because we have a large dog kennel, And we had a couple dogs that were like major. I mean, really major. One had a stroke, and the other one was down with hip dysplasia, really bad. She's old, and when I say they're on the ground, that's what I mean. And so your last thing that you're going to do is make a hard decision that you have to euthanize them. And man, I don't do that. I don't like it, and I fight that. And they weren't ready to die. And I said, Malcolm, I said, will it work on a dog? He goes, yeah, my dog takes it. And so I gave it to my dogs, and with great results. I mean, it isn't like they were brand new again, but I'm telling you what, they come up off the ground, and it stunned me because the dog will react a lot faster, and it stunned me. And I thought that Cynthia and I were just talking about it. Maybe I ought to start taking this, and I started taking it reluctantly. Malcolm's calling, hey Randy, you should be out. No, I've been out, and yeah, just really not doing it justice. But 90 days later, 90 days, right? And it was a little before that, but let's just call it 90 days later. Now my phone says 6,600 steps. I'm back to constructionizing. This is one of the first pictures where I bid a job, and we replaced all the roof, doing sprinkler systems, digging in the dirt every day. Oh my word. And the nurse even said to me today, she goes, so do you not have any back pain whatsoever? And I go, nope, none. Nope. I mean, it'll grind a little bit or something. You kind of feel it grinding, but there's no pain to it. So I don't care if it grinds. And I don't have no pain. I can just keep going. And Dave, I hadn't even told you this story, but we were in a restaurant last night, and the restaurant owner, him and I were in the hospital at the same time, and he's all busted up as well. And when we were in the hospital at the same time, he said literally, I these doctors will not give me enough pain meds for my back. So I caught him in the kitchen walking by, and I said, Joe, we got to talk. I said, how's your back? He said, well, I'm doing a little bit better. And I said, are you pain free all the time? He goes, no. He looks at me, he says, are you? I go, yep. He goes, oh man, all the time? I go, yep. He goes, oh, we got to talk. It's like, yeah, we got to talk, dude. We need to talk. So, I mean, it's a miracle, right? I mean, I look at it from this standpoint. I'm forever thankful that Malcolm brought it to us. I don't think that's a happen chance thing. And then of course, I met Dave right away as well. So let's give credit where credit's due here. But let's talk about real quick. I mean, there's things that happen in life for reasons. And when you're at the end of your rope and you're praying and you're begging God to take this pain away, I can't stand this, and then this happens, I'll forever owe my heart to this blue pill and these gentlemen that brought it to me, who I wouldn't have listened to anyway, but I luckily kind of did. And thank goodness Malcolm was a pain in my tail, and forevermore I love that guy to death. Let me tell you, thank you, Malcolm, and thank you, Dave, for getting me straightened out, man. It's changed my life and my portfolio. It's changed everything.
Well, and I'm getting chills right now because I'm thinking about Malcolm and all the people's lives that he saved and changed. He's racking up a pretty good number of people that, man, they're just shooting through my body right now, Malcolm. These God bumps. Um,
Yep.
so to stay on course here, I'm going to go into the science in just a second here, but everybody's telomeres are getting shorter. And when telomeres get shorter, bad things happen. And telomeres are in every cell of the body, and they shorten for different reasons at different rates. And your mom, who's getting up in years, and this is what I love about this product, it's not just for backs, right? It's
No.
not just for, this or some specific thing. It's every cell in the body. So I want you just to rattle off real quick a couple things about your mom, who has been an evolving process. And, as we get up there in years, obviously our telomeres are going to be shorter because of the amount of time chronologically. So kind of explain the evolution of your mom getting on the product and a few of the major things that she's seen that were unexpected.
Yeah, right, Dave. And I'm glad you brought that up. Here's the thing. Sometimes you think, well, I help my back. So you think, well, the neighbor, maybe his back or her back, right, or whatever. Well, my mom's back. So it's like, mom, mom, this it's your favorite son, right? I am the favorite son because I'm the only son. I got something. I mean, how's your back? Oh, my back is good still. It's still good. Yeah, it's still good. Well, you need to try this out on your back. Well, she's on oxygen all the time. Was okay. So we already know where the story's going here. She was on oxygen all the time. Couldn't even go downstairs in her house, let alone come back up, carrying her oxygen bottle. Not a chance. We start it because of the back, right? I mean, we think, well, the back, the back, the back. Well, no, that wasn't the first thing. The first thing is she calls me back and goes, is this like help your lungs? And I go, I don't know. I expect it does. So of course, you got to call Dave or Malcolm, and because you got to know, right? Hey guys, mom's wanting to know. Yes, oh yeah, yeah. We got testimonies for that, without a doubt. It'll help the lungs. Really? Well, she went from oxygen, then part-time oxygen, no oxygen. She's 87. Now I'm telling you what, I got a text from her today, and she's going to go to this church deal, and she says, because I feel like a new person, I'm going to go take in 2 days of this, and she's just going on in her text. I mean, if that doesn't bring warmth to your heart, man, I'm telling you, you're dead. And she's going all the time now. And she had a hammer toe, even that this hammer, the middle toes growed over the big toe. It's been that way forever. She looked at that thing the other day, and it actually straightened itself out. She called me up and said, that I've always had this hammer toe thing, and it's grown straight out now. I said, seriously? I mean, it's almost like you can't hardly believe it, right? And there's weird things like my hair all grew in and stuff. It's just some weird stuff, but it isn't weird because Dave's going to tell you about the science here. But the other thing, Dave, that I have to share this about my mom. I kind of almost think this is almost the biggest thing because it was a dawning. She always gets into my Escalade and the door is heavy. She can't shut it because she's had surgery in her shoulder right here, and then they pulled it together like this. She can't raise it or pull nothing or nothing. And so Cynthia, we got her down the steps, got her over to the front. She gets up in there on her own. She gets up in there on her own, pulls on the deal, gets in, and reaches over and just shuts the door. And I kind of looked at it. It's like, she just shut that door? And so later, she didn't even realize that she had shut the door. So like a week later, we're gabbing and stuff. Because I didn't even mention it that day. We went out to eat, did our deal and run around. And I didn't even say anything. And I didn't want to for a reason. I wanted to see if she'd say something about it. She didn't even realize she'd done it, Dave. And the thing of it is, I said, Mom, did you realize you shut that door the other day? And she stopped. She goes, I did, didn't I? And I said, yes. I said, with your bad arm, the one that don't work.
Yeah.
I mean, it just goes on and on, right? I mean, it's so wonderful. And we don't know, maybe back, maybe brain, maybe this, maybe that. We just don't know. And we might think it's going to help this, and then it goes and helps this. And with Mom, that's the way it was. Did it help her back? Oh, you bet it's helped her back. But it helped her lungs first. We thought back, nope, lungs first, then the back. And the shoulder and the hammer toe.
Yeah, amazing. Again, I have chills still going through my body. Um, I just love that because of quality of life, right? And especially it's a good testimony. And we see these things all the time. I've been sharing this product now for 15 years. It's been available for about 15 years now. And all of these stories and testimonies that are racking up, right? The thing that I love about it the most is thinking how that individual's life is impacted. And then the people around her as well, the people that love her and
Yeah.
and the results that people are getting and the lack of stress that's reduced and just the quality of life. I mean, you don't think about having to close a door when you don't have an issue doing that. But when you can't do it, your world revolves around that can't part. Or when your back's hurting all the time, of course you did all of these other different modalities because that's all you're thinking about because the pain is there 24/7. So you're constantly trying to address that issue. So you just keep trying things. And it gets frustrating for a lot of people. I'm going to share some other stories here in a minute just to give you an idea of what other things we have. I have so many stories that, I forget about the stories that are amazing, life transforming stories, next level stories. But let's get into, thanks for sharing that, Randy. You guys give him a shout out in the chat and for the courage to take the product. And yes, we've seen so much with animals. We've seen cats, dogs, and horses. Those are the three animals that we've seen the most with the product. That's the ones that I've heard and gathered over the years. We literally had a horse that needed to be euthanized, totally fine, no problems, like nothing was ever wrong. There were other horses in Las Vegas. Lisa Grippentrog found a lady that raises race horses. This is just in that community. And they have supplements for what they call the frog. I didn't know that that's what it was called, but the thing inside the hoof on the bottom of the foot, and that will degenerate away. And the lady told Lisa that there's all kinds of supplements for it, but nothing works. And so Lisa said, well, try this. The frog grew in perfectly, like there was never anything wrong. And on top of that, the horses that were retired were running like they were running when they were racing again. So this is not science fiction. It's not some unique, unexplainable thing. It's all explained. And that's the thing I love about learning this science and being mentored by Bill Andrews. I was introduced to Bill Andrews in 2010, and it was because he partnered up with our company. And when he started talking about his science and his research, that guy had me at hello, because I'm very passionate about what I do and helping people with the nutrition that Isogenics has put together. The same minds that have helped Bill Andrews get past his stalemate is the same minds that created this company. So the science is there, and the nutrition that was there before the telomere product came out in 2011. I've been with the company since 2005, and they changed my life because of that science that is in there, just like with this product. And so when this product came out, I was like, this is next level. I'm very passionate about helping people with their lives and helping them to understand why it's helping them. And I was mentored by Bill. I took a special interest in his science. And scientists love when you talk to them about their passion, just like anybody else would. Talk to me about pickleball right now. I mean, I'm very passionate about pickleball right now. I'll talk to you about the kitchen and everything, right? And the paddles and all that stuff. So he mentored me so well that it was on a very deep, profound level. And I'm like, well, nobody's going to understand that stuff. Let me put together a presentation in a way that everybody will be able to understand it. And so these are some of the slides. They've evolved over the years, and I've made it even simpler over the years. But Bill said, this is the best presentation I've ever seen, Dave. You've taken a really complicated research and made it easy for the general public to understand. He said, in fact, him and John Anderson, who partnered up with him to get past the stalemate, said, and I don't say this egotistically, just to get across, like there's clues, right? Success leaves clues. Truths leave clues. And they said, you're the best presenter on telomeres on the planet, Dave. You present it better than I do. And so I really am humbled by that, but also honored by that. So let's go into this. Bill would say the telomere is like the plastic tip on the shoestring. And we're all familiar with that. He said when the plastic tip wears away, the shoestring starts to fray. So in front of big audiences, I would use a shoestring and nobody could see it. So I went down to the hardware store and I got a big piece of rope and red electrical tape. And I made basically a chromosome with the different stages of telomere degeneration. And this was a great object lesson as I was giving the presentation. And so this would be a perfect telomere. Now the telomere is actually shortening before the baby's even born. There's so much stresses and lack of nutrition and toxicity even introduced to the baby that the telomere is actually degenerating. Now, Bill Andrews believed that anything that degenerates in the body should have the innate capacity to repair it. Like if we cut our skin, the body has the innate ability to heal itself. Even a broken bone, the doctors don't fix a broken bone. They might need to set it, but those cells will communicate and they'll fuse themselves back together. So he believed that that should be taking place with the chromosome. Now here's, the rest of the story, some very important information to know about as the telomere degenerates, this fraying that's happening to the DNA. The nucleic bonds are separating. And so that's damaged or lost DNA. And DNA is like the software. It's the information and the instructions that tells the cells how to operate. And those cells make up our organs. So as the telomere is degenerating, we're losing that instruction. When you lose enough instruction, the micro problem becomes a macro problem. It becomes symptoms. And you could say they're symptoms of aging, or you could even label them as degenerative diseases. The Nobel Prize research was awarded around what I'm sharing with you right now on this information. Every degenerative disease is linked to the loss of telomere and DNA. So, like the issues with Randy's back, we're talking skeletal issues. We're talking within the skeletal, you have the spinal cord. It's all made up of cells that have chromosomes, and even the stuff in between the the disc. All of that is cells. And so the symptoms of the telomere being lost is what we saw in the picture. And we could go into other things like thyroid disease, thyroid issues. Thyroid disease doesn't tell you why the thyroid is malfunctioning. It's usually just because some kind of symptoms, right? Diabetes. It's just, okay, we know the body can't regulate the blood sugar, but why can't it regulate the blood sugar? It used to, now it's not. And it is for other people. Well, because people with diabetes, for one reason or another, have shortened their telomeres in the system that controls the blood sugar. And cancer is a malfunction. Alzheimer's, cardiovascular disease. Bill actually proved in his research when he identified human telomerase, he invented the protocols and started working with cultured living cells, human cells. And they would identify different compounds that were shortening the telomere faster. It's called accelerated telomere shortening. So just more than just the average telomere shortening among everybody, there's ways to shorten your telomeres faster and bring on disease faster. Well, he proved that the chemicals that are in cigarettes shorten your telomeres faster. Well, those chemicals are going to be bombarding the pulmonary system, right? The lungs, the throat area. So their telomeres are shortening faster in that area because they keep being bombarded with this accelerated telomere shortening chemicals. So they end up with COPD, lung cancer, emphysema. They have breathing issues because they're bombarding their telomeres in those cells every day. And so their telomeres are getting shorter faster than their peers. So cigarettes cause telomere shortening. Telomere shortening causes the malfunctions and the symptoms that we see from that. Osteoporosis, every degenerative disease. And then when the telomere gets to a certain length, it's called the Hayflick limit. Professor Leonard Hayflick discovered that when that telomere degenerates to a certain length, the cell will shut down. Now that organ's not even going to work. If it's an organ that's keeping you alive, you're dead. The first symptom of an aneurysm is death. There is no pre-symptoms, right? And so when a blood vessel breaks in a certain part of the vessel wall, it's because the telomeres lost their integrity and their instructions in holding that part of the cell, the cardiovascular vessel wall together. And so that's a telomere issue. An aneurysm is a telomere issue. We had a lady, I'll tell a story here where I don't normally tell stories. She was an Indian chief in Oakhurst, California, and she had come to the meetings that me and Malcolm would do in the library there. And she came in and she said, guys, I got to tell you a story that just happened. I've been being monitored by my cardiovascular doctor for a while, and they're monitoring an aneurysm that they discovered on her aorta. Now, they couldn't go in and do the surgery. They could go in and do the surgery, but they're trying to put it off because that's 50-50 chance you might survive the surgery. And she said, I went in to be monitored, and the doctor came in and looked at, the x-rays, left the room, came back, and two doctors came in, and they said, what have you been doing? Your aneurysm's gone. It's not there anymore. The integrity of the blood vessel wall is back in place, and there is no bulging of that aorta anymore. Now, we wouldn't know that unless she had been being monitored. Now I have several stories like that, even with scar tissue from a stroke on the heart. that disappeared. So the a stroke is like an impact. And Bill Andrews said, yeah, trauma could damage a telomere and really play a role in causing symptoms after the fact of it being in a trauma. Physical trauma could do it, stress could do it, and a lot of other chemicals as well. And here's one that I really want to get across because, it involves the children. In April 2012, on the front page of USA Today, it said that children's telomeres today are significantly shorter than they used to be. Now, I'm quite sure that probably nobody knew what that meant because most people don't know what a telomere is, even in the medical community. I've lectured at doctor symposiums with uh, pharmacists, surgeons. Most of them can't remember it from med school what a telomere is, let alone the role that it plays. So on the front page of USA Today, it said that about kids. Well, it didn't, it gave some lame excuse as to why they believed it was shortening. They were saying things like bullying and playing video games, which I know more than what they were saying in that article. I put together two and two based on what I learned from Bill Andrews. He tested preservatives and trans fats in the human cells that were being cultured. And all of those chemicals from preservatives that's in our foods and our processed foods to trans fats accelerates the telomere shortening. Well, being in the industry that I am with wellness and nutrition, I know that processed food and the ultra processed food is causing problems with people's health. Now I know something more that I didn't used to know. These kids are eating a lot of, well, not just the kids, everybody, but especially the kids. They're eating way more processed food than we used to in the previous generations. Some kids, that's all they're eating. The Doritos, the flaming hot Cheetos, packaged food, throw it in the microwave food. That stuff is full, chock full of preservatives and trans fats. So I believe, based on what I've watched and observed, their telomeres are significantly shorter because of the chemicals that Bill tested that are in the foods that they're eating. And now we're seeing a health crisis in all of the degenerative issue areas. Diabetes is 1 in 2. What is it? Over 50% of adults are type 2 diabetic now. 50%. 77% of teenagers, young adults, are unfit to serve in the military. The mental issues, all of that, autism, that has everything to do with nutrition and telomeres. The symptom is the malfunction is that they can't control their behaviors and whatnot. Well, that's a telomere issue. So Bill believed, like only a few other scientists back when he started this, that this could repair itself. And he believed that this enzyme was the catalyst to do it. Well, he was the one that identified human telomerase and how it's being produced in the cells. And that's why they invented the protocols, because they wanted to start manipulating that gene that produces that enzyme. So let me just skip forward to the next slide here. This one here, I'll come back to that one. They tested over 304,000 different compounds right there in Reno, Nevada. 304,000 compounds in over 10 years. And they found 8 compounds, these little red lines, they call them a hit. They induced the cells on that gene level to produce more of the enzyme telomerase. When that happened, they saw the repairing process take place. So let me go to this slide. So the cells that they were working with had telomeres that were degenerated. And then when they were able to manipulate the human skin cells on that gene level to produce more of the enzyme telomerase, they saw the chromosomes repair themselves, the telomere and the DNA. And they still have cells today that are being cultured now from way back then that are still the same skin cells. Skin cells usually get to senescence and then they just don't replicate anymore. They die off. They have a very short lifespan through just replication. So even just through cell division. And these cells are still being cultured. They basically call them immortal cells. They're dividing cells with perfect chromosomes. Now, he said in this article in Popular Science, if we could rebuild this guy's DNA and get it all back intact like this, physically, his body would mirror reflect this information. And right here, it's not. That's this information that's lost. That's why this guy is looking like that. But if we could get it to come back physically, he would go back to his mid to late 20s, which now I understand. I understood it theoretically before it had ever been done, but now I'm watching it happen. And another important factor to know about what we did in working with Bill Andrews and getting past this stalemate right here is that we were seeing results like Randy's and like Randy's mom, right? She had surgery, they shortened the muscle and all of that. Well, how would restoring the telomeres to shorten muscle help? I said, Bill, is this product helping the body to produce stem cells? And he said, absolutely. With no hesitation, he said, absolutely. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeing the results that we are seeing. And what we did, so all of these chemicals that Bill found were not fit for human consumption. And they only found 8 in over a decade, $30 million in testing, 304,000. So John Anderson was introduced to Bill, and he's one of our original founders and formulators. And he had to start his own company to keep his products from being compromised, the formulations. He formulated for other companies, over 600 of them. The guy sold over $1 billion worth of products. Somebody said he was like the 3rd wealthiest man in Arizona and made over 2,500 different health products, but they were all compromised by the companies he would formulate for. So he had to start Isogenics to get past that. And so here he is formulating away, changing my life and so many other people's lives. And then along comes this introduction to Bill Andrews. And John said, had I known about telomeres and this role that they play, I would have focused on this a long time ago. And now that I do, I believe this is why I was born. These are literally the words right out of John's mouth. I believe this is why I was born and why I learned everything that I've learned for this. And in just months, he was able to put together symbiotic formulations, all natural, that started producing hits in Bill's lab. And to say they were excited is an understatement. Bill Andrews said this is the greatest thing to happen. It's going to change the landscape of human health as we know it. And this is the next level. My research is getting to market. I can't believe it. And it's done through an all natural, holistic, nutritional company. And he was ridiculed by a lot of his colleagues. I haven't said that on here for years. He was literally ridiculed in an article in a magazine by one of his colleagues, because in the article, the interviewer said, yeah, we heard John Anderson partnered up with this nutritional company in the networking home-based business industry. And his colleague said, yeah, we've been talking about that amongst ourselves. We don't know what happened with Bill, but we believe he'll come around. That's literally what was said in the article. And here we are 15 years later, and we're way beyond this many hits. I stopped counting when we got to like 24. And now we just evolved it again. And the company was always kind of unsatisfied with the name they had been calling the product. It started out as Product B, then it was Product B Isogenesis, then it became Isogenesis, and now it's Recharge NAD. And they wanted to get a name in there that people were more familiar with. And there's been a lot of things that have been learned around NAD and an ingredient that produced something called sulforaphane. And so they added those to the proprietary blend that was causing this. And so they made it something that people were more familiar with. And so the Recharge NAD contains this proprietary blend, but then we added more to it. And we've seen other things result because of that upgrade. But I've been lecturing on this now since before it was even released. I started lecturing on it with Bill's science and research, knowing that, maybe we'll come out with something, but this is still great information to know. Our product's nutritional. We have a lot of antioxidants in it, and we could help slow down the telomere shortening. But then we came out with the product, and I'm like, okay, game on. Let's see what it does. And immediately we started seeing this whole spectrum and array of results, from endurance with athleticism to youthful appearance to youthfully aging and becoming more active and and issues being resolved. So these are the little bottles that John would send over and Bill would test. That's myself with Lancer and Bill. Malcolm was there with me at Bill's lab and took that picture. And these are a bunch of them. I'd get literally emails and text messages from John Anderson at 3 o'clock in the morning on how things were evolving. And he sent in way more than these. This was just another batch that he had sent over. And then they would give him the feedback. And what really confused Bill and his research team is they tried the natural ingredients that produced these hits. They didn't work over here. It's a way that of formulating, the way you overlay things and symbiotically put things together and timing and all of that. This is like a pharmaceutical grade formulation from natural ingredients. It has to be that way. So that's the story that I like to share with people, to give the background story of why we're seeing the results like we are. So if we go to somebody like, and I think I saw Sharon. Was Sharon on here tonight? Did I see Sharon's name? Yeah, Sharon, you're on. I'm going to have you unmute. I'm going to ask you to unmute. Sharon was born legally blind and had some motor skill issues and wasn't able to get around without some kind of assistance, a wheelchair or whatever. And Sharon, can you unmute? I'm sending her a message and I'm not
It's
sure.
Diane. I brought her on back on again. I said, she doesn't realize it. Hold on one second. Let me go into her text message and then send her a text to unmute herself.
Hey Dave, while we're waiting, could you show the Diane Sawyer and the Florida video?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to come back to it. I just wanted to show a few other stories, but yeah. So this was in the Nobel Prize was given to this research in 2009. And so we'll talk about this after it plays.
And now, eternal youth. Is it in a cage around the corner? News tonight of a breakthrough for some pioneering mice. But we always wonder, what does a fountain of youth for rodents reveal for humans? Here's Sharon Alfonsi reporting.
I feel tremendous.
In the movie Cocoon, it's a swimming pool that turns back the clock for a group of senior citizens. But now researchers have found a way not just to stop, but reverse the aging process. The key is something called a telomere. We all have them. They're the tips or caps of your chromosome, seen here in yellow. This is what it looks like in a young adult. But as you grow older, the telomeres become damaged and frayed, and as they stop working, we start aging, experiencing things like hearing and memory loss. Scientists took mice who were prematurely aged, added an enzyme, and essentially turned their telomeres back on. You can see it before the enzyme, after.
Their brain function improved, their fertility was restored. It was a remarkable reversal of the aging process.
Look at this picture. The mouse on the right has bad skin, gray hair, and is balding, but the one on the left had its telomeres flipped back on.
And you could see that essentially you now have a dark coat color, that the hair is restored, that the coat has a nice healthy sheen to it.
Even more dramatic, the change in brain size. This is before. The mice had 75% of a normal brain, like a patient with severe Alzheimer's. But after the telomeres were reactivated, the brain returns to normal size.
So Harvard piggybacked off of Bill Andrews' research, what he did with the human cells. So when he proved it in the cells, then Harvard, and it took them over 10 years, but they were able to do the same thing in mice, living, breathing mice. So here you're seeing before the chromosomes, you can barely see the red. And then over here, you can see on the same mouse, the chromosomes, the telomeres have grown back. And here they only talked about a few of the degenerative issues they had, but in the papers that were published, they talk about diabetes. So they had diabetes over here. They had cardiovascular, liver disease, kidney disease, osteoporosis. And then when the telomere was grown back, by activating that enzyme, all of those issues went away. There was no more symptoms. And so once it was proved in a living, breathing mammal, that's when the Nobel Prize was awarded.
And now,
So now, as the product was released, obviously there's going to be results that people are getting. There was a doctor in Florida that started putting his patients on it, And I had to clip some of the things out because we cannot make any claims around curing different diseases. I'm just talking about what the science has shown, how things resolved based on the Nobel Prize winning research. But when we're talking about our product, we can't say that it cures things, otherwise, we would be shut down. So I clipped out things from this, but this is still a great uh, clip from the news with a doctor that started putting his patients on this.
Imagine if all you had to do was take 2 pills twice a day to stay younger longer. But we got your attention now.
Scientists working with a company called Isogenics say that they have promising results. Mike Holfeld looked into a latest version of the Fountain of Youth.
To be clear, it's a supplement, not a prescription drug. People that take it say they feel better and younger. Now, the medical community is starting to take notice.
Is anybody excited?
5,000 men and women packed a Las Vegas convention hall this past summer for the unveiling of a supplement that, in theory, makes old cells young again. The formula? Product B.
We're very excited about the results that we have.
Popular Science calls Dr. William Andrews the man who would stop time. The PhD in genetics work is based on the 2009 Nobel Prize-winning discovery of telomeres, the DNA on the tips of chromosomes that actually holds the key to why we get old. You felt the symptoms of aging?
Absolutely. I was 40 and I felt like I was 50. Now I'm 45 and I feel like I'm 30.
Stacy Cartwright has been taking the formula for more than a year. She's convinced this blend of vitamins and plant extracts reversed her physical decline, from thinning hair to weight gain. Remember the telomere?
Right there, they scrolled across the screen all of the different issues that his patients were dealing with, including that lady, and we're just scrolling across. And then he points to the bottles and says, all I've been doing is giving them this. So that's the piece that I cut out.
Scientists discovered they protect our chromosomes. Each time our cells divide, a small portion of those telomeres shorten.
When the telomere reaches a certain length, the cell dies. That's cell biology.
But the Nobel Prize-winning research found the key to that cell biology, telomerase, an enzyme that essentially lengthens telomeres, keeps them alive longer. Dr. Andrews and his research team says Product B activates that enzyme in all of our cells.
So the reason why we see so many different results is because it's in all of our cells. We're inducing that enzyme to produce more. All the science is there, the research. People will be like, well, where's the studies? Well, those hits that I showed you, that you can't get any more research and science than that. Bill Andrews' lab is the only lab in the world that can do that. They made the protocols for that, invented it. And so again, it's not, at this point, it's not a matter of convincing people. It's just helping people to know that it's available, and those people that are looking for it and are ready to take it, we just want to make sure we're getting this information to them. Sharon, I don't know if you're there, if you're able to unmute.
It appears she is.
There we
Hello.
go. Hey, Sharon, we haven't seen you for a little while. How you doing?
Hey, I'm pretty good, pretty good.
Awesome.
I was sick for a little bit, but you know what? It's all good. I'm back.
Yay. Well, we're glad you're better. So, we've been sharing the story and the science behind the product and let people know you were born legally blind. How old are you now? You're in your 30s, right, Sharon?
Yes, I'm 36.
36, yeah, that's what I thought. And you had some mobility issues, right? And you started, who introduced you to the product?
Let's just say Diane. Melita. I think Melita was her upline, but
Melita, okay, awesome. So
it was Diane.
Oh, Diane.
And then on top of that, everybody I got involved for a little bit, and here I am.
So what happened with your vision when you started taking the product?
It improved drastically. I needed a new pair of glasses. Like, it's a really good problem to have.
Yeah, to improve your eyesight. What about your mobility? Do you still need walking assistance, or can you get around on your own? Or
I can get around on my own. I don't need my cane.
Awesome. Yeah, and that was from birth, right? If I remember right.
Yes.
Yeah, what a great thing. And improving quality of life, right?
Yes, it is. And the right products get you there.
What did your optometrist say as your eyes were improving?
Like he thought his machine was broken.
Yeah, I love that story. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for sharing, Sharon. And it's
Like, no problem. I mean, it got to the point where it's just like, wow, how in the world, I did not expect it to go that fast.
yeah, especially where you've been dealing with it your whole life, right? And nothing
Yeah,
around. Yeah,
it's just, it's, it's exciting, but it's like, what? you know, I was in total shock.
yeah. Like so many others, and like Randy was saying, with the dogs and just seeing that. And then everybody's shocked that sees Randy now. And well, thank you, Sharon. Appreciate that.
Yep. Any other questions?
No, that's it. Thank you for sharing.
Okay, you're welcome.
So this is another one. There's a couple stories I have in here of Malcolm's, and there's so many. Like I said, I had somebody that was in a head-on car crash and at 60 miles an hour, and this was in Minnesota. And they said it was the worst severed spine they'd ever seen. He would never get out of the wheelchair. And we had that guy walking down the aisle at a big Saturday event with hundreds of people there. And he was acting like he needed the crutches that wrap around your forearm. So he was coming down the aisle and everybody's standing up and clapping. And then he threw those things to the side and just walked all the way up to the front and did a U-turn. And I mean, obviously you could tell there was still, mobility issues, but he wasn't in a wheelchair, didn't need any assistance. And like stories like that, right? And so many others. Karen was given no hope. Her hope had come to the end of the rope, like Randy was saying. They said, you won't make it through the holidays. She had been homebound for about 4 years. Malcolm reached out to her. She came to a meeting I was doing in Vegas, barely made it there. We were going to meet with her earlier and do dinner, but she was late to the meeting. When she saw the science behind this, she got so excited. She was one of those who was just like, I, I want it now. She found somebody who had an actual bottle at the event and literally bought some individual pills because it was the person's own bottle. It wasn't, they weren't there to sell it. They just had it in their purse. And she literally made them let her pay them for some pills. And she ordered it. Well, this is her just 2 days later. This is from the 3rd to the 5th. She could not believe the visual, but also how she was feeling. And me and Malcolm, our phones were just blowing up with texts from her and getting on the phone with her. And this is 3 days later. She came to our company event, stayed there for 6 hours. And just from there, it just got better and better. And she started doing Pilates and just a normal life. She's still alive to this day. The funeral home called in December and asked where her body was because, she already turned the paperwork in and they just wanted to find out if they needed to cross her off and did they go somewhere else? And her daughter said, no, she decided to live and hung up the phone. Still thriving to this day on Facebook, doing things and just having a normal life. And just so many stories like that. Bill Foster, another one that Malcolm reached out to and didn't know if Bill was still alive, but he was barely. And that's a 6-month transformation. And he actually started working out. He started utilizing the other products along with the telomere support. And he got up to bench pressing 280 pounds. About 6 months later, he sent me this picture and he said, I'm benching over 300 pounds now. He's like 74 years old now. He's had so many surgeries on his back and hip. And he says, it's like I never had the surgeries. I feel amazing. I want to break the world record for bench pressing for somebody over 70. He's up to like 315 pounds or something like that in bench pressing, last I heard. And he actually got his lungs replaced. They wouldn't approve it here. And after 4 years of being on the product, I don't think I have the picture. No, it's in a different slide. He was approved to get the lung transplant because he was healthy enough. And in, what was it, 11 or 13 days, he was out of the hospital, which was a record for Stanford University. Nobody's been let out of the hospital for a lung transplant in 13 days. And so just amazing what's happening, with trauma, surgeries and the recovery. I even had my own experience with that with the motocross accident. Grab my slide here. I had a pilon fracture where it shattered the bone in a motocross accident, and they bolted this to my bones so the pieces wouldn't fall around. That was on for 6 days before they did the surgery. The surgeon that lives in Utah here said he's the only one that could do it, and you'll have to wait until he's back in town. He was somewhere else doing a surgery. And so they did the surgery. I was in bed for 6 weeks. I knew that I would heal faster because of all the other traumas that I had seen from other people that were being resolved. And I tried to explain that to the doctor, but he didn't want to hear anything about it.
Oh, this is
Kind of shut me down. And I'm getting some background noise. Somebody's unmuted.
They broke both legs.
Oh, there we go, Malcolm. He said it would take up to a year before I'd stand on that leg with all my weight. And he said, you'll never run again. So I was in bed for 6 weeks, so a month and a half. I was in that for about 2 weeks. So there's 2 months. 1 month later, almost to the exact day, 3 months, I ran stadiums. 3 months from the day of the accident, not the surgery. And I didn't even have any muscle atrophy. Somebody pointed this out in my calves. No muscle atrophy. And I was drinking our nutritional shakes and taking the telomeres while I was laying in bed. And the healing process was dramatically decreased in time. And it's like it never happened. That was in 2015. I'm playing pickleball. I mean, if you could put it, I don't know that you could put any more strain on your leg and your bones playing pickleball. That's very fast, jerky movements with a lot of weight. And I'm accelerating and increasing in my ability really quick. It's a lot of fun. So we're seeing like that trauma was a fresh trauma, right? We're seeing this kind of recovery for people who are dealing with trauma issues that happened decades earlier. We had a lady that couldn't turn her neck all the way from an accident when she was a teenager. And she's my age. I'll be 57. Are we in June yet? No, next month I'll be 57. She's my age. And she could turn her neck all the way now. She's like, this is unbelievable. I've been dealing with that for over 2 decades. So like with your mom's toe. And that's, the bones are not wood. They're cells. They're living organisms that function and operate and have intelligence to them. Well, when the intelligence is missing, we have these malfunctions, right? Whether it's from trauma or just, the chronological shortening of the telomeres. When that information is restored, those cells that are making up that organ, and your bones are an organ, just resolve. They course correct. We've seen that with a dog that was ran over. They didn't take it to the vet. Its leg got ran over and its foot was healed at a 90-degree angle. They said, hey, Dave, we've been giving our dog the telomere support and its foot straightened out. 3 years, it was like that. So that's when I started putting these things together for myself. I didn't have to go take a class on it because there is no class on it. We're leading the way in this technology and how we're supporting the human body. It's the single greatest product on the planet.
Yep.
Along with the single greatest conversation. And I absolutely believe it's divine. I believe the way John and Bill came together, that was not an easy accomplishment. All of this stuff, I believe, was through divine intervention. And why? Because look at the improvement that it's making for the quality of life for people. One more story here. I'll do, 2 more. You're going to be like this guy right here with your pictures, Randy. You're going to be a celebrity in isogenics. I mean, Malcolm's out showing people your spine and telling the story. Well, a lot of people are sharing this story. Dick Sauter, I did a meeting out in Wisconsin and his daughter-in-law came. And then I ended up becoming friends with these guys and they live in Minnesota. And I got to watch this happen, but he was totally going to check himself into a nursing home here. He was getting to the point where he couldn't take care of himself. And Amy came to a meeting and she got her father-in-law on the products, and that's 90 or 83, 84, 87. He's 90 years old right here. 90 well, he's 90. I think he's 94 now, 94 or 95. His birthday's in July. That's a 12-year difference. He's 12 years older right here than right here, 2008. That's the same granddaughter. So he's getting younger while she's getting older physically, right? And he's totally thriving. He's the only grandparent that's alive now. And I think he's 94 now. I could be mistaken. He might be 95. Uh, Amy messaged me and told me, and Amy has been on these Zooms a lot and shared his story. Anyway, he's thriving and totally having, an incredible life. Same issue here as some others that we've seen. She's laying flat. This is Minnie, and I think she was 85 here. She's laying flat, so her feet would be down here. You could see the big hump in her back. She was totally bent over. It forced her chin into her chest, and her mind was completely gone. You could not have a normal conversation with her. So I was there when we took that picture. That's in their farm home. And this is 5 months later. 5 months later. And you can see here, her chin is up off of her chest. So these are pretty astounding, like mind-boggling results, right? Then you can imagine all the other things we're seeing in between. This was a heart cardiovascular issue where they sent Bob home to die. His heart ejections were at 13. They said, hey, we can't do anything for you. Your cardiovascular system is too weak to do the operation that you need. We can't even put a pacemaker in to extend your life. You wouldn't get off the table. My friends Dennis and Sharon, they gave him the product, and that's him 6 months later. The whole boxing community, because he's in the Boxing Hall of Fame, got to watch this. This is an interview. They're like, what in the world just happened? You were in critical condition. We were going to lose you. What did you do? You look amazing. You're back to work. Tell us about it. He talks about all the results that he got from the product. And it wasn't just with his cardiovascular. This is him a year later. So I'm just going to check in with you guys. A lot of science, a lot of research, a lot of stories. And we're still creating more stories. Randy's story is pretty recent and his mom's evolving. And so any questions that anybody has? Esther, any questions? Pretty amazing. Did I make it so you guys could unmute? I might have muted it out. No, everybody should be able to unmute. I can ask you there, and that should pop up something for you. Oh, there you go. Did you have any questions, Esther?
No, I think it's very interesting, all the experience you have shared. It's amazing how science works and all the research they have to do previous to start seeing results. That's a beautiful, beautiful experience. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, you're welcome. To me, it really explained, like most people that I know would say, yeah, the human body is a miracle. How many of you believe the body is a miracle, right? Yeah. But this takes it to a whole nother level of understanding the miracle of the human body and how it works on a biological level. Because that information is irrefutable. That's Nobel Prize winning research. So thanks for being on, everybody. Anybody else have any comments, any questions?
Well, one thing, Dave, I can so I share my story and Mom's story, but Cynthia and I are out. We're talking to people. We have a number of people on the product, and we're seeing all kinds of stuff, and it's some of it for surely takes longer, and that's okay. We tell people, listen, I didn't get any results, basically any results for 90 days. So, don't expect something in 30. You might get it in 2 or 3 days, but you might take 23 days. We don't know. But don't do anything unless you're going to do it for 90 days. And that's just how we share it. And we are seeing phenomenal results. It's just a crazy, crazy, wonderful thing. It's that's why we just call it the magic blue pill. What it has done to help the human body advance is That's phenomenal science, but it's a God-given science. I mean,
Well, and the cost too, Randy. What were you paying to try and get your back better? And
oh
what were you
man.
losing out on because of your inactivity?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You know, and so it's like $100 a month, basically. And it's so crazy to even talk about how inexpensive it is. I hate to use the word cheap because it's not cheap. It's inexpensive, and we're talking probably minimum $1,500, $2,000 a month or more, especially those shots. You know, even the shots from the regular doctors are like $3,000 a piece. My stem cell shots in my knees and in my back when I had all that work done. My knees were $8,000, and I paid it just right there that day. And then like the 13, I think my back was around 10 or 12,000, something like that, and I paid that day. And so I mean, we're talking when you're trying to, and I say trying, I was getting a little bit of relief here and a little bit of relief there and a little bit of relief there. And then I find because of Malcolm, this guy bugging me, $100 a month pill that takes care of all this stuff that I was doing, all of it. And not only takes care of it, but it dwarfs it. It dwarfs it because I wasn't paying free. Dave, I was still at 8, 9, 10. It's a pain from the depths of hell. I mean, you cannot have a spine like that and look at that spinal cord and know that doesn't hurt. That hurts. I mean, it takes pain to a whole new level, and to have that erased, and to be able to go back to work. I mean, it'll flip your portfolio around. $100 a month. What are we talking about here? If Malcolm said to me, I can guarantee you results, and I know he wouldn't do this, but let's just hypothetically, I can guarantee results, and the results that I got after the 90 days, Dave, if he told me, you know what, Randy, I think it's going to cost you $1,500 a month, you don't think for a minute I wouldn't pay that $1,500 a month? Oh, yeah, I would find a way to pay that $1,500 a month because I ain't never going back to that pain. I had somebody the other day say, well, are you going to, you know, because they're starting on it. Well, are you going to just stay on this stuff then? Is that what the plan is? I said, you don't think I'm ever quitting? I'll never stop. Oh, I'm not taking that chance. No, no, no. I don't care if my next MRI says, Randy, looks all good. I'm still ain't stopping. Dave, I'm not quitting at all.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems to maintain, like I feel like I've gotten younger since I've been on it. I do a lot of other things that I wasn't doing on a level that I can do them now, and I'm just maintaining it. Connie,
Yeah.
you're 82, you just turned 82, and you went up a long set of stairs at a convention center or somewhere, wherever that was, and you're skipping steps. You're doing 2 steps at a time, so it seems to maintain that level of youthful vitality and ability physically. I love it. Well, thanks you guys for being on, and just get back with the person that got you here. They'll help you get started. 2 pills a day. That's all it is. 2 pills. All right, you guys. Awesome.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
See you guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes.
Bye.